the chances that you're perceiving reality correctly is zero. The subconscious mind prefers a familiar hell to an unfamiliar heaven. So the trick is to make hell unfamiliar and heaven familiar.
Do we have to remember the beginnings of these patterns that we want to undo?
A lot of our traumas, a lot of our struggles that we experience in our mind, they're pre-verbal, multi-generational, and subconscious, so they can be really tough to get to. In his first 90 days, he made an extra $50,000 because he was now showing up as the worthy person that he truly is.
Oh my gosh, that just gave me chills. Today I'm joined by Dr. Tara Perry, a clinical hypnotherapist and doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine with over 25 years of experience. She specializes in core trauma transformation, a powerful process that helps individuals heal deeply, reconnect with their authentic selves, and experience lasting peace and confidence. Dr. Tara has worked with everyone from world-class athletes and celebrities to first responders and children, helping them tap into the subconscious mind to overcome anxiety, addiction, PTSD, and more. She's been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Lifetime TV, Esquire Magazine, and is the host of the Next Level Healing podcast. Enjoy this interview with Dr. Tara Perry. What does core trauma transformation actually mean, and how is it different from traditional trauma therapy?
That's a great question. So I've found that your conscious mind is only processing about 40 bits of information per second. That's like listening to three people have a conversation. Your subconscious mind is processing 40 million bits of information per second. So if your conscious mind wants something and your subconscious mind wants something else, who's going to win that? So there's typically four trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawning is my people pleasers. But whatever has stressed us out in life gets recorded in the amygdala and the hippocampus and drives us to behaviors that are not in conjunction with the mid prefrontal cortex, which is our executive function. So many times I've had people come and they've tried everything medically to solve a problem, and they're still having panic attacks. They're still not able to focus. They're still addicted to sugar. They're still angry. And when you can bypass that little conscious mind that's the gatekeeper and get to the subconscious mind, the speed at which somebody can drop old patterning, I have found to be tremendous. And I've found that people have recovered from things like headaches and migraines and um, having developed choking disorder because they were attacked by a dog and went through all these surgeries. People that had 40 years of back pain from breaking their spine in a motorcycle accident and had done acupuncture and chiropractic and all kinds of things for 40 years. And then in 2 sessions, just by going to that powerful subconscious mind and finding out what the blockages are, the things that are demanding their energy, tiring them out, taking energy away from healing, that was really getting in the way of them getting what they wanted.
Is it true that most of the patterns in the subconscious mind get ingrained between the ages of 1 and 7?
I usually say between 2 and 10, but I don't think the science is definitive on that. I've had people go back to experience being in the womb and not wanted by their mothers. Some people go into a past life, and it's all fine because if it's real to the brain, then it's real to you. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So if you've created a memory or experiencing a memory, uh, there's episodic memories and then there's actual memories. So the actual memory is you remember a person, place, and time and an event, but typically the subconscious will distort and generalize, and then it creates episodic memories. And so much of what we're struggling with in our subconscious mind in some in some degree isn't even real.
Yeah, I remember learning that most of our memories, I don't remember the exact statistic, but most of them are made up or they change over time.
Yeah. The subconscious mind likes to delete, distort, and generalize. And it's just kind of crazy. I've had people that were so phobic of snakes that if a snake showed up on their phone, they'd hurl their phone across the room. And I thought, oh my goodness, this person must have been, you know, attacked by an anaconda when they were younger. And it
Mhm.
was something really silly. They, had to, they were at a school assembly and they had to go pet a boa constrictor before they left. And they were so terrified at the thought of doing that, they escaped out the back. And ever since then, they had been so afraid of snakes that they couldn't go out and enjoy nature with their family. They couldn't enjoy hiking. So it was a big imposition on this person's life. And after a couple sessions, they just didn't have that problem anymore, and they were able to function normally with regard to snakes.
Were you able to trace back where that started from?
Yeah, it was the school assembly where she was, she was told she had to touch this snake, and the students were told they had to touch the snake to experience what it felt like to touch the snake before they left the assembly. But it was so terrifying to her that she escaped out the back and never came anywhere near the snake. So
Oh.
again, she never had a memory of a snake attacking her. She just made up in her mind that it was so horrible that she had to escape. So the amygdala and the hippocampus, as a survival mechanism, blew it into this big horrible thing, which it never was.
Mhm.
And that's true of so many thoughts in our mind. And when we adjust things, I always say people are like an iPhone 16 operating on iPhone 4 technology. Sometimes it's the silliest things, and sometimes it's real. I mean, I get a lot of people who have had a lot of sexual abuse and physical abuse, and there's just unfortunately a lot of not optimal growing up going on in our country and in the world. So, we have to manage our thoughts and our generalizations about things so that we're not blowing things out of proportion, because it's very, very real to us on an emotional nervous system level, but it may not be so real in terms of reality.
It's funny. It makes me think of like, okay, God or the universe comes to you and says, all right, you just need to rewire your subconscious mind, just find those things and just like that's like part of the game. But then it's like, oh, but here's a curveball. Your memory is not accurate. So do we have to remember these like the beginnings of these patterns that we want to undo? Okay, quick side note. I have to share this with you. Whenever I'm on the go or I'm getting that I need something but don't know what feeling between meals, I just pop a few spirulina tablets from Energy Bits. Honestly, they have saved me so many times. They give me clean energy and I feel good for hours. No crash, no junk. What I love is that each little tablet is just one ingredient, 1 calorie, and packed with 40 vitamins and minerals. It's wild. People even use them to support their skin and weight goals too, which is a nice bonus. So if you want something quick, clean, and kind of magical, check them out. You can go to energybits.com and use the code HEALWITHIN for 20% off. That's energybits.com and code HEALWITHIN at checkout to receive 20% off your entire order. All right, back to the episode.
That's a great question. Yeah, by definition, it's subconscious. It's below the level of your consciousness. So how the heck do you? I mean, I've had so many people that have struggled with something for decades and decades and done meditation and seminars and weekends, and they're like, there's no way I would have gotten to this otherwise. So there are different ways to access the subconscious mind, and you don't have to go back and wallow in it, certainly. Sometimes it's important to actually just kind of have a recollection of what occurred. Sometimes that recollection can just be a feeling. Um, uh, so that question has a variety of different answers. I would say most people I work with go back to a memory or two or three that have something to do with the issue that they're struggling with. And then we can connect the dots and see, oh, okay, what do these memories have in common? And then how do we get the subconscious to see that it doesn't want to be an iPhone 4. It really wants to be the iPhone 16 that it currently is today. But until it sees that, oh, that iPhone 4 is dangerous, it's holding me back, it's hurting me, it won't make that journey because the subconscious mind, as you've probably heard, it prefers a familiar hell to an unfamiliar heaven. So the trick is to make hell unfamiliar and heaven familiar.
Mm. It's funny you say that. I just heard something recently about a study where people, the majority of people, would rather push a button that inflicts pain rather than pushing a button that they did not know whether it would inflict pain or not. I mean, they might not inflict any pain, but they'd rather know and have the pain because we don't like the uncertainty.
I have not heard that one. I know the one where people are forced to sit, and they'd rather inflict pain on themselves than sit with their thoughts, which is really an interesting finding. But I haven't heard that one that you just described.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So if someone cannot remember, is this where hypnotherapy comes in? I know that you use that with your practice.
Yeah, and yes, I've had many, many people that have blockages of some kind that they've struggled with forever. Sometimes it's money blocks. I worked with a gal who was a gallerist in Europe, and she used to be a lawyer and didn't have any problem asking for money. But when she became a gallerist, she all of a sudden wasn't showing up for herself, wasn't showing up for her clients, and she's like, I don't know what the problem is. And when we just Googled the subconscious mind, went back to the beginning, the origin, the root of where that got implanted. She says, oh my gosh, there's no way I would have figured this out with my conscious mind. And again, when things happen early, early in life, I've had people, and a lot of these are on my YouTube channel, my playlist. But one gal had horrible medical trauma when she was a baby, and the doctors couldn't help her, her parents couldn't help her, and she had developed all this learned helplessness. I get People often describe they have invisible walls or invisible hooks in them, just something that they can't get a hold of no matter how many therapy sessions they do, how much meditation they do, how much breath work they do. So uh, she went through 4 years of a very intensive program, which is a fabulous one worldwide. But in 3 sessions of just going into the subconscious mind, she was able to, in her words, feel like she was feeling endless amounts of love and walking on clouds and not running up against those invisible walls with the learned helplessness. So it is powerful to be able to connect with the feelings that you're feeling and really go back to where did that get installed? What does it want? What does it need? And then give it what it wants in a way that it can process. We talk about bioavailability when it comes to vitamins and stuff. If you're putting in affirmations, I'm strong, I'm capable, I'm safe, but the subconscious mind is just going, no, it ain't happening.
Mhm.
Then it never gets into the system. It never gets into the nervous system. So the trick is really to get past that little conscious mind and into that big, beautiful subconscious mind. But it doesn't speak in a linear fashion. It doesn't speak in a logical fashion. It speaks with emotions. And it won't change until it emotionally sees, oh, this is hurting me what I'm currently doing. This is harmful. This is dangerous. Then it'll be willing to make that journey to the unknown, but it needs a really clear path. So I make people a customized audio tape after I'm working with them. The session takes about a couple of hours and a pattern becomes clear. And then I make them that audio tape that they listen to each night as they drift off to sleep.
Mm.
That fires and wires the neural pathways from where they are to where they want to go.
I want to go back to what you said about money blocks because that is fascinating to me that someone can have a job and be successful and accept money from clients, but then change career paths and have some sort of a block around receiving money in a different or from a different way, I guess more creatively. And I mean this makes sense because there's some jobs where it's like you're giving something tangible and then other jobs where it's like you're selling a service or you're selling air. And so like maybe there's something there, but how do you figure that? Like, I mean, how can you know that, you know?
Well, I always say I don't have, the good news is I don't have to figure it out and they don't have to figure it out. When you go to the beginning, the root, the origin of whatever the problem is, whatever the feeling state is that you don't want to be feeling, again, memories come up, feelings come up, something will come up. And I always say there's no wrong answer. It's like you're sitting in a movie theater. You might recall things, you might remember things, you might see things, you might hear things, you might just have sensations in your body. There are no wrong answers, but a pattern will become clear. And that's uh, the map to go from where you are to where you want to go. And a lot of times they'll see the answer. If we put the tools out in front of them, they will be able to put the pieces together and see what it is that they needed to see.
I feel like you probably get this one a lot, and I'll use myself as an example. I would have issues selling things that I created or that were mine, but for other people, I could sell. If they created it or if it was their product or it was, something for someone else, I could sell it, but for me, I couldn't. So I trace it back to this not good enough or not worthiness. What would you say about that?
Yeah, that's really actually common. Worthiness is a an issue that people often seek me out for. Feeling anxious is another one. Not sleeping well. I find that when you remove these old patterns, I had one gal that hadn't slept well for 7 years. She only slept 3 to 4 hours a night, and she went through regular sleep therapy, and it didn't do anything for her. And she's like, I don't know how you did this. In 3 sessions, you never even mentioned the word sleep. I didn't have to. I just removed the emotions that were preventing her from sleeping in the first place. And to what you just said about being able to sell your own stuff, you can sell other people's stuff because in your mind it was set up that, okay, they're worthy, so I can go out and show up my best for them. But if I'm not worthy, then I can't show up the best for me. And that's a really, really common thing. And there's a number of testimonials on my playlist where people, for example, my podcast manager, he had been working with me for over a year, and when he rubbed up against the feeling of unworthiness, and he's a spectacularly accomplished human being, young man, and he said, Tara, sign me up to be your next client because I want this gone yesterday. And immediately he started sleeping better than he had slept in his entire life. He started losing the weight that he was carrying around that he didn't want anymore. And in his first 90 days, he made an extra $50,000 because he was now showing up as the worthy person that he truly is.
Oh my gosh, that just gave me chills. I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking of people that would benefit from this. I want to know what the emotions were that were keeping the one client from sleeping, because I'm sure a lot of the people who are listening struggle with that.
Yeah, I don't have that memorized, but and plus it's his personal information. So, but typically what I would get as far as emotions with unworthiness, it would be anxiousness, um, uh, fear. Th those are the most common.
Mhm.
Any of the fight or flight emotions.
Mhm. Fear and anything in particular, or just fear that you're kind of dwelling on?
Um, well, also just sometimes people say, I want to feel like I'm enough. I want to feel like I'm worthy. I want to feel
Mhm.
like I'm lovable. So the words are different, but the feeling states are often the same. People want to be loved and accepted and okay. They want to be able to function in the world and get through life. Survival's a big thing in our world.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like it all traces back to that because it's just so it's in our cells, it's in our DNA.
Yeah, and the body has memory in the cells, and they did this study with rats, and I hate animal studies because I just don't like them. I think they should be able to sign the consent forms too.
Yeah.
But they would apply an electrical shock along with the smell of cherry blossoms, and of course, it didn't take long for the animal to just with the cherry blossoms experience the electrical sensation. That's just Pavlovian. But what was a surprise is that, the babies of that animal had the same response. The babies had the same response, and it took 3 generations for that to go away. Yeah. So a lot of our traumas, a lot of our struggles that we experience in our mind, they're pre-verbal, multi-generational, and subconscious. So they can be really tough to get to. And it's kind of like a sweater, when you have a knitted sweater and you just take one piece of the sweater and you pull it and the whole sweater comes apart. It's not like there's one memory that is the specific memory. And if you don't find that needle in the haystack, you're not going to get the relief you want. It could be a bunch of memories because, again, this generalization process that the brain goes through, I just trust that when we Google the subconscious mind, the right information will come up. And when you put the pattern together and create that pathway to get from where you are to where you want to go, that if you just apply it on a regular basis, again, listening to that audio each and every day as you go off to sleep, and then I have them chart three things that are shifting and changing in the direction of what they want each day, because truly what you put your attention on gets your energy and that expands, and you want to have that working in your favor as well.
So it sounds like, and this is the way that I approach physical things as well, as far as like diet and health, which would be like if you target one thing, like if you're targeting your gut or your skin or whatever it is externally or just in your body or on your body, then by default, you kind of hit the other marks too. Because if you change a couple things, it's going to have an effect because everything's working together.
I have this picture that I had in my office for a long time. It's of a camel flattened on the ground. It's from a Donna Gates book. She's a microbiome expert. And on the camel's back is, toxins, poor diet, stress, I'm not good enough, feeling unworthy. And there's just all these sacks on the camel's back. And it's like, which one caused the camel to collapse? I don't know, but just let's start taking the stress off. Whatever it is that's weighing you down, that makes you feel not good enough, that's hindering your performance, just start pulling those away. And I love to say we stand on the shoulders of giants. There's a lot of great teachers out, you know, with a lot of fabulous technology and information. I just interviewed Richard Bandler the other day. He's the founder of NLP. And, yeah, just an unbelievable treasure trove of tools to get the mind to shift. So, there are wonderful tools out there. There's another saying that, it's not that we know so much, it's that we know so much that isn't true. There's just such an abundance of information out there that one of the challenges is just getting through it all. You know,
Mhm.
you have YouTube, you have access to everything you need to solve your problems. It's just that getting through to the thing that's going to help you at the right moment and the right time, that'll take some time.
Mhm.
So that's why working one-on-one with somebody is so important, because when somebody can assess really quickly what's going on with you, and then how do we get you from where you are to where you want to go in a rapid fashion, today that's really kind of the name of the game.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to get there. It's like a maps app, and you have to choose the route that's gonna, be the quickest, the most efficient, and it's not gonna, uh, you know, go against any of your subconscious beliefs.
Yeah.
And okay, you also use Chinese medicine, acupuncture. Um, how do these things relate with trauma and how it stores in the body? Like how do you see trauma storing, or how do you see trauma showing up in the body in a physical way?
That's a terrific question. So in Chinese medicine, so much of pathology is just stuck energy, blocked chi. It's like we're these rivers of energy. Uh, and I just had Sue Hitzman on. She's the creator of the Melt Method on my podcast, Next Level Healing. And I also had Gil Headley. He has done human anatomy for 30 years. And what we see in anatomy books is just dead. It's dry. If we could glimpse the incredible miracle that we are in every second of every moment, I mean, our jaws would just be on the floor. We would be rolling around in awe all the time, because we have this amazing shimmery connective tissue that goes into all of the aspects of our organs called fascia. We have these literal rivers of energy called meridians. And back when the Chinese figured this out, there wasn't any technology to measure it. Now we have all these little devices where we can measure electrical frequency on the body. In Western medicine, if somebody's got a problem, a lot of times they'll do a nerve conduction velocity test where you put in two needles, measure the speed of that current from point A to point B. And if it's blocked, they know, okay, yes, this person has a measurable problem. So when we experience trauma, uh, we tighten up, and the energy can't flow as well. So I've seen tons of people who, their neck and shoulders are just locked up all the time. It's like, why on earth would going into somebody's subconscious mind change their low back pain that they had 40 years ago from a motorcycle accident? It doesn't make any sense. But if something is stuck in the subconscious mind, the low back, if you follow John Sarno's work, he wrote a book, Healing Low Back Pain. Famous old book, but it talks a lot about the mind-body connection between low back pain and and your mental state. And in Chinese medicine and in the chakra system, our root chakra has a lot to do with survival. John Sarno talked about how most of low back pain is not older people. We would think, if pain in the low back had to do with the aging process, then people in their 80s and 90s would have the most amount of it. But that's not true. It's actually people in their wage earning years that have the most low back pain.
And why is that? What does it trace back to?
Stress.
Stress.
Survival, needing to prove yourself all the time, earning that paycheck, being good enough at work, getting along with your coworkers, bringing that stress home and having to make things work out in the family. So there's a lot to juggle. And again, this is where, if you can access the subconscious mind and find out, okay, what are my blinders? What am I not seeing? How am I not functioning at my best because my brain still feels like it's an iPhone 4, a little boy or a little girl stuck in a certain situation. And then you just rewire. I hear over and over again how people, show up at their work with better boundaries. Some people aren't even able to work at all. And they're, when they resolve the things in the subconscious mind, they're able to resume their normal work activities.
Have you worked with enough people where if someone comes to you and they tell you a certain part of their body where they feel pain, that you know exactly like, oh, it's this?
Louise Hay was famous for her book. I think it's called You Can Heal Your Body, something like that. And she would categorize all the different parts of the body and what a mental emotional state was connected with that. Uh, I wouldn't say that's when I was doing acupuncture, people would often say to me, I'd put my hands on somebody and I'd go right to the pain and they'd be like, how did you know that? You just went right to it. When you do something long enough, you do have a sense of things. I would say more the sense that I have the most is just it's an intuition. When those patterns come up from people's past and being able to connect the dots and getting them to see how the dots connect, I would say that's my strongest intuition.
Are there any tells or signs that you can recognize in people and you're able to tell that they have unresolved trauma?
Well, certainly how they hold their body.
Really?
Oh yeah, I've had people come in and they're like this. I mean, it's, you know, you can tell. There's many tells, and somebody like again, Dr. Richard Bandler, who I just interviewed, he can assess all kinds of tells, whether if your eyes flicker in a certain direction. I just heard I think it's Joe Rogan interviewed a mentalist recently, and his ability to pick up, an eye flicker or a twitch on the face to the point where he was able to, figure out Joe Rogan's, pin code in like in 10 minutes. You know, there's all kinds of different tells. I can't say that I've trained myself to pick up facial twitches and all kinds of things. You're looking for just when I am working with somebody, their eyes are closed and I am looking at their face. So yes, if I see that they're tightening up or twitching or crying is a big one. Uh, there are tells like that, but tension is a big one. And I would say one of the biggest outcomes that people get is a release of tension. People usually feel like they're carrying around some kind of 50 or 100-pound backpack that is sewed onto their back and they've not known how to get rid of it. And so as a result of doing the work, they end up feeling lighter, freer, more authentically themselves. That's another interesting contradiction. When you dump the old patterns, you're able to more authentically function. So people are more able to find their life path. Artists are more able to download that next, Grammy award-winning song or the next painting. It's interesting. And what's fun for me is that everybody's different.
Do you find that it happens quickly? I mean, once those blocks or those beliefs are let go of or dissolved, I don't know really the right term to use for that, but once they're gone, do you find that those results happen pretty instantly?
It's different for different people. I would say most people start dumping the issues after the first session. I do things in 3 sessions because I find that there's layers to things. And I would say that over 90% of people after the 3 sessions will have dumped 50 to 100% of the issue. Sometimes it's instantaneous. Like I just got an email, I want to say 3 days ago, where somebody that I've just worked with said, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I just wiped my hard drive clean. I feel like a completely different person." Sometimes it takes that daily work. It's like going to the gym when your muscles are weak or learning a sport. It's awkward at first, and it's the daily noticing and the daily listening to the audio that allows for that regular progress. And so by the end of the 90 days, you're going, wow, I've really covered a lot of ground.
Have you ever worked with someone who actually ended up not having any trauma to uncover?
Well, I think just being born. Stanislav Grof's work, he's the one that came up with the concept of holotropic breath work and has written many, many books. Um, uh, I just don't think you can function on planet Earth without coming up with mental patterns that aren't optimal. Uh, and I think we've always got another layer, another level of enlightenment or um, growth or contribution that we can achieve. So uh, I'm certainly not at the end of that path.
Okay, amazing. So you still work on your own unresolved trauma.
Well, again, trauma is what I would say is a big title for anything that has been a stress response that the brain has not optimally responded to. Uh, for example, I've recently done the Dr. John D. Martini training as well, because I'm just a junkie for how the brain works. And when the brain is out of balance in terms of how the episodic memories are, in other words, we've either put ourselves in a pedestal or put ourselves in a pit or put somebody else on a pedestal or put somebody else in a pit. Uh, as soon as we're out of whack, we're out of balance, then we're more in the amygdala than the mid prefrontal cortex, which is that executive center. And I don't know too many people who are fully in their mid prefrontal cortex and really have dialed away the amygdala and the hippocampus being out of balance.
I'm like you. I'm fascinated by how the brain works. I want to know everything I can about how the body works and what's happening inside and the connection between the two. There's just so much to learn. What would you say would be the biggest myth, though, like about trauma that people should be aware of?
Well, I think one of them would be that it takes a long time to heal it. I don't think that. I had somebody who had scored 100 on his PTSD scores in the military and went through all the military training. He was gifted my process from a relative, and he still wasn't able to focus, was still having panic attacks. And after 2 sessions, he's like, "It can't be this easy." And I'm like, "Yeah, it actually can be." So, again, I have worked with people that have been through a lot of really serious traumatic issues, and it just doesn't take forever for the brain to heal. It takes getting the brain to see, oh, I'm not in danger. I am safe. I do have the skills. Uh, I have whatever it is that I thought I didn't have to get my needs met,
Mm.
and it doesn't have to take forever.
What if someone has a belief that it is going to take a while or it's going to be hard? Does that make it take longer or make it harder for them?
I would say that probably depends on how committed they are to their belief. Once they go through the process and they see something, I mean, so often people finish the process and they're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? I never saw it from that perspective. There's a wonderful saying that uh, a change of perspective is worth 80 IQ points.
Mm.
And when you have a change of perspective, your whole experience of your being changes. And it's a palpable change. It's not like gee, I really hope today I don't feel scared. It's like oh, I'm really okay. I'm not what I thought I was. I'm something different. So I would say those beliefs can change very quickly as well.
I wonder too if people will adopt your beliefs or, whoever they're working with, because, oh, like they have a lot of faith in you or your work and they've seen, proof of concept from past experiences. So then they decide inherently, I'm going to take on her belief system around this because it benefits my goal.
Well, the placebo effect is well known, and we really honestly should exploit it, and I mean that in the best possible terms. Because if you believe something, then yes, absolutely, and I mean for the better. If you believe something is going to be good for you, then the likelihood of that is dramatically increased. That's why Tony Robbins talks about this, and rapport with the person that you're working with is so important because if you don't have rapport, then they don't believe in you, and then all of a sudden that little itsy bitsy conscious mind is going to be on patrol, making sure nothing gets past it and into the subconscious mind. So somebody needs to feel relaxed and comfortable enough so that the centurions in the conscious mind can go take a little holiday and we can have that, relaxed conversation with the subconscious mind. But you really have to get that conscious mind out of the way. And as far as me being able to, I always say, I can't make you think anything you don't want to think or believe anything you don't want to believe. I'm just a tour guide. I'm just shining a flashlight on what's going on in your mind so that you can make the changes.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. If someone isn't ready to work with someone, but they're listening to this and they know that they have stuff that they want to work on and let go of, what can they do in this moment or what can they do today, maybe on their own, that can help them get there?
Well, certainly listening to podcasts that have good information can be helpful because then you can start to get a little more confidence that this is not uncharted territory. Um, uh, if you are considering working with somebody, just get familiar with their work. Listen to testimonials of people who've worked with them and read the reviews and all that. Uh, um, there's meditation, there's breath work, there's cold therapy. Wim Hof made that quite famous when he went from being extremely depressed due to his wife's suicide to now being famous all over the world. uh, there's a fellow that I've worked with as well. In fact, he described my process as one of the most beautiful experiences of his life when he was dealing with something in his life that was uh, had cropped up and was in the way, but he was a paraplegic once and a quadriplegic once and healed himself both times with breath work. So he teaches breath work all over the planet. So there's a lot of tools out there. Community is also really important. Having friends that you are like-minded with. You I have worked with people in relationships and I always tell them, look, if the relationship isn't healthy and you get healthy, then either the other person's got to change and the relationship has to change or the relationship will probably end. So if you're around unhealthy people and you get healthy, you're likely going to want and seek out a different uh, friend circle.
Mhm.
And that's a good thing.
Dr. Tara, I could talk to you all day long. I'm so grateful that you have a podcast because I have a feeling I'll be listening to it a lot now that I'm aware. Where can the listeners go if they want to work with you or they want to learn more?
Sure. So my podcast is Next Level Healing, and it's on all platforms. Send me a note. I'd love to hear from you. And my website is consulttara.com. You can also find me at nashvillehealer.com. There's a Let's Talk button. So if you're feeling like we might be a good fit, just go on there. There's about 10 questions that you can answer to get clarity about what it is you want to shift and change. And then we can set up a time to talk for 30 minutes and see if this is a good fit for you. On my playlist on my YouTube channel, and that's I think at Dr. Tara Grace Perry. Yikes, I should know this off the top of my head. But there's a
Amazing.
playlist. There's a playlist there with all the people, not everybody, but a sampling of people that I've worked with who have struggled with addiction issues and sleep issues and stress issues and not feeling worthy issues and how they were able to get over it. And so hopefully that will help demystify the process. I mean, a lot of people do find the subconscious mind really weird and scary. It's and this Richard Bandler also says this that it's not that you can't be hypnotized, it's getting you unhypnotized that is really what this is all about. Uh, we're walking around with as Joe Dispenza says, and he said this at the 10-day retreat in Cancun last year, he said, the chances that you're perceiving reality correctly is zero. If you think about the visual spectrum, it's huge. We only perceive like a hair's breadth of it. The auditory spectrum is huge. We only perceive that much of it. And within that, our brains have to dumb everything down for us because we can't perceive millions of bits of information per second, except in our subconscious mind. So we have to dumb everything down. It's like if you spin around the room looking for everything that's brown, and then you close your eyes and try to remember everything that's blue, you can't do it because that's not what you were looking for. So our reticular activator system is constantly making everything so a minuscule portion of what it really is that there's just an immense amount of information that we're not seeing. Byron Katie likes to say there's no two people that I've ever really met because we're all walking around with our own filters and our own screens. I just worked with a couple. This was a fun case. They were both referred to me by their doctor, unbeknownst to the other one. Fortunately, they did share that early on because I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do about this? Um, because I didn't want it to be a surprise to either one of them. They were happy that they were both working with me. But the wife said at the end, she says, I never want to be without this. So, she'll be signing up again to go through another, because again, you go from A to B, then you were like, okay, well, now I want to go from B to C, and then, C to D. That life is unfolding, and it's nice to go through life as a more highly functional person than you were last week, last month, last year.
Mhm.
So anyway, at the end of the 3 sessions, she's like, "This is a miracle. I'm so happy we did this. Couples therapy made us worse. The great thing about this is we just fixed what was within ourselves, and the relationship got better. The family got better. We didn't even have to go into a room and work things out with each other."
Amazing. Yeah. That's something that my friend and I reflect on often is that there's a different version of you and every single person. Like no two people on the planet see you the same. There's a different version of you. Even yourself, you see a different version of yourself than everyone else, which is just a crazy thought to come back to. And
Scientists now know how neuroplastic our brains are. We can change. So if we dump old stuff that's dragging us down and making us feel less than and preventing us from seeing what's really in front of us, we can constantly be evolving into something better.
such fascinating work. I have two closing questions for you. The first one is, what is your number one health tip? So that could be mindset, diet and nutrition, emotional, spiritual, just the one piece of advice that you would like everyone to know.
Wow. One piece of advice. Uh, there are tools out there to help your life be even more amazing.
What you seek is seeking you, right?
Mhm. And when the student is ready, the teacher arrives.
Yes, yes. For the last question, you get to choose a number 1 through 100, and it correlates to a more personal question. You cannot choose 77.
Okay, I just chose a number.
Okay, what's the number?
68.
68? How do you approach endings, whether in relationships, careers, or life stages?
Well, an ending is a new beginning. And something that I learned from Dr. John DeMartini is that when you're going through grief, one of the big tips for that is we tend to idolize the thing that we've lost. We tend to put it up on a pedestal and think, oh my gosh, it's like you go to somebody's funeral and it's like sometimes you wonder, like, are they talking about that same person? And not to make light of all that, but we want to see things that are in balance. So if something has ended, and he did this with his own wife when she passed away, he had already processed it by the time she had passed. And it was a beautiful relationship. But when she passed, it's like he had done all the processing, he had looked at all the positives and all the negatives, and he had just put her in his heart, and he was able to move on to the next thing. So looking at things in balance, seeing it as a new beginning, because in Chinese medicine, there's that old saying that you can't fill up your cup if it's already filled with liquid. You have to empty the cup before you can fill it up with a new cup.
Oh, that's really great. I don't think I've heard that before. Thank you so much, Dr. Tara. This was an absolute delight. I love talking to you. I love hearing about all of your expertise and knowledge. And thank you so much for being a guest and for sharing with my listeners.
My pleasure, Jessica. It's wonderful being with you, and thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you. And please check out the description. All of Dr. Tara's links will be there.